Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing another book review, and it's a book review to Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder, and it's book one of the Chronicles of Ixia series. And so in this book review I will say spoilers after a certain minute. So in the first 3 or 4 minutes it will be non-spoilery because I will just read the blurb as well as just briefly explaining what it's about to not be spoilery. And then after a certain minute I will give you a warning and say that I'm about to now reveal spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then I suggest you don't watch any further. Unless you don't mind being spoiled, then continue watching, and I'll talk more in depth about the actual book. So I will be like talking about how good the pacing was in terms of plot and whether I like the characters, because it's very important for me that I like the main characters. Otherwise I get like I think, because if I don't like the main characters, then I usually don't like the book as a whole. So it's really important for me that I at least like most of the main characters, and I can say that I absolutely loved pretty much all the characters apart from obviously Rayad, Brazil. They're absolute cunts, absolute scumbags. But anyway, without like giving away spoilers, I will just read the blurb for you guys. So the tagline for this book is, "How much is your life worth? In the territory of Ixia, control is maintained through the code of behavior, forbidding the practice of magic." So this is a fantasy novel, by the way. I would say fantasy romance, although in terms of the fantasy side, I'll explain later about it, but let me just continue with the blurb. So, through the code of behavior, forbidding the practice of magic, but danger lurks in mysterious places. Imprisoned for murder, Yelena Zaltana's punishment is death, unless she accepts the position of the commander of Ixia's food taster and risks assassination from poison daily. In a world where magic equals death and freedom is for the lucky few, the battle for Yelena's life has just begun. So in this novel, it's just basically about this girl called Yelena who gets imprisoned for murdering this guy called Rayad. And we don't find out the reason for why she murdered him until like much later on, actually. And then like she gets offered to be the commander's food taster, so she has to taste all the food that the commander is given, to taste if there's any poisons in it. So she has to do that every single day, and she has to like suffer the symptoms, but at least she can live, unlike having to get executed. So she rather be a food taster rather than actually getting executed. So that was a choice: get executed or be a food taster for the commander. So she got taught by Valak. Valak is another character, one of the other main characters, and his job is to be a mentor and, well, more than that, but be a mentor to Yelena. And he was just, he was such a good mentor. He was extremely caring towards Yelena, like, because she's technically a criminal, she did face some like hostility from certain people, but with Valak, like Valak has been like very caring and protective of Yelena. So I really love the relationship between Yelena and Valak. Also Yelena's relationship with other characters, supporting characters like Dilana and to some extent Rand, and also what was their names? Okay, so I just had to look through the novel to find out what the supporting characters' names were that I was about to mention. And so their names are Ari and Janko, and they are two men who are very good friends with Yelena. Like, they really care about her. They treat her like a sister. So it's not like a romantic relationship or anything, but they're very protective. They're very loyal to Yelena, and helping her whenever she needs it, because Yelena throughout the book, like, people are like trying to get her killed and stuff. Won't say any more than that though, but I mean, that's to be expected. She's a criminal technically. So I just want to say that I absolutely loved this novel. It was just brilliant. Like, I just loved the characters, the plot. It was just one thing after another. There was plot twists at certain points. Although, what I have to say though regarding the pacing was that the first half of the novel, so like basically the first half, I'd say is quite slow. Like, when I read this, I was expecting more magical elements being incorporated, like, for example, like magical creatures and stuff like that. But it's quite light in terms of the fantasy side of things. And also the romance in the novel. I absolutely love the romance in the novel. It was just amazing. The relationship between Yelena and Valak, just brilliant. I can't say any further, but about that. But yeah, it's brilliant how steady the romance was, because usually with young adult fiction, this is a young adult novel, although when it comes to like the themes of it, it's a very violent book. I just wanted to make that disclaimer. It is very violent. And I was quite shocked by some of the descriptions in this novel, because I mean, I usually read slightly more family friendly, young adult, upper middle grade type of novels. So I guess I just wasn't used to that. I was thinking, is this really young adult? Because it's like descriptions of, I mean, there were like really gross descriptions of Yelena vomiting and stuff, and like blood and like skin getting peeled off from her body, and I was just like, okay, it's getting a bit too personal, even though it's really good that the writer is like really giving us an in-depth vision of like what is happening to Yelena, because the writer is doing a really good job at like making us sympathize with Yelena, even though she's technically a criminal. But I'll say my actual spoilers after this point, but that's all I'm gonna say. The description that the writer like makes, it's just amazing. I absolutely love the writing style in this book. It's just so well written. It's so descriptive. You really can imagine Yelena's pain with those descriptions, even though they are quite disgusting sometimes, the description, like the mention of feces and stuff like that in the prison, and I mean the smell of feces and stuff. But she really does nail the five senses in the descriptions. So so yeah, it's brilliant that that the author is just so, she's a really good writer. That's all I can say. She's brilliant at writing, and yeah, so I love the writing style, and as I said, I do love at least the majority of the characters. I hate Marge. I think she's an absolute bitch. Of course, I absolutely hate Rayad and Brazil, but they're the villains. Obviously Mokan is also a villain that I hate. So of course I'm gonna hate the villains, but I hate them because absolute scumbag the way they treat Yelena. Anyway, so for this non-spoilery part, I would say that this book, after the midpoint, it gets really good. Like, damn, like the first half, Yelena is just basically tasting poisons for the commander and getting mentored by Valak about different types of poisons and studying poisons, hence the name Poison Study. So she's basically studying poisons and understanding the effects of the poisons, and then getting the antidote after the end of that day. So she's constantly getting the antidotes every single day after tasting the food, because obviously she's not supposed to die. Well, I mean, for the most part, Valak tries his best to like keep Yelena alive. He really does care about her. And that's another thing. Now I think I should really just get to the spoilery part, because I'm struggling to like not say spoilers, and I really do need to talk about the novel more in depth, because there's just so much to it. Okay, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then please stop this video now, because I will be getting on to spoilers now regarding the novel. But if you're totally okay with that, then keep on watching, and let's talk about the novel more in depth. Okay, so firstly, I just want to say that Yelena, I think her as a protagonist, she is the main character. I think she's brilliant as the main character. Personally, I prefer some of the other characters like Valak, and I guess, I mean, Yelena is brilliant. I think she's a very strong-willed female character. I mean, so much bad stuff has happened to Yelena, so you really do sympathize with Yelena, or at least I do, considering her backstory, the fact that she got tortured, got made to do things by Rayad, the fact that he also raped her, so he's an absolute fucking scumbag, Rayad. So I have no qualms whatsoever the fact that she had to actually kill Rayad because of all that bad traumatic treatment that she got from Rayad. And to be honest, and I don't know if it was explained properly, but like, was it explained properly? I mean, so basically Yelena finds out that she's actually a magic user, but that's like after the midpoint. What I think is the midpoint where she finds out that she's a magic user, and that roughly happens halfway through. So like literally halfway through, she finds out that she actually can do magic, and that's actually forbidden. Magic users get killed if they are found out, so she has to keep this massive secret from Valak and everyone else, and it's so hard on Yelena because she doesn't understand her magic, she doesn't know how to control it, so throughout the last half of the novel she practices self-defense as well as practicing her magic a bit as well. I mean, it's not really that in-depth in terms of like practicing magic, but like, to be honest, it's still book one, so I'm not expecting like her to be a full-fledged sorcerer by the end of the book, because that would be unrealistic. So I really like Ari and Janko training Yelena in self-defense is really helpful for Yelena because a lot of people, Brazel's guards, they keep coming after her. They want to kill her for revenge for killing Rayad, because Rayad is Brazel's son. So Brazel, he really wants Yelena dead, even though he raised Yelena. But he only took her in because she's a magic user. And magic users get killed if they are found out. So it's really hard. For Yelena, poor girl has been through a lot. But yeah, but Valak, Ari and Janko, she does have friends on her side, and I was quite surprised by Rand. Rand is the cook in the castle, and he was actually very nice towards Yelena, but then we find out that he had to make a deal with I think it was one of Brazel's, I think it was Brazel, to sell out Yelena or something like that. put Yelena's life in danger, even though he felt the guilt from doing that. But he really needed the money. I think that was the case. I can't quite remember because I did finish this novel like last month actually, so this is actually a late book review. But I mean, I don't hate him, but like, wow, like he technically betrayed Yelena, keeping this from her about the bet. But I did really like Tilana. She acted like an older sister to Yelena, like giving her clothes, because like Yelena, she looked like, from the way it was described, she looked like one of those really homeless people, like a prisoner who's got like really like ripped clothes basically. Now I wanted to talk about the romance in this novel, and I just want to say that the romance in this novel, even though romance is not my favourite genre, is absolutely 100% well written in this novel, because it's actually gradual, the romance between Valak and Yelena. Like, even though Valak is supposed to be a mentor to Yelena, Yelena is 19 years old and Valak is 33 years old, so it's a huge age gap between Valak and Yelena. But you know what? Yelena is an adult, she's 19, so technically she's an adult, and I have absolutely no problems whatsoever with that age gap, personally. He's even though he's an assassin and he was trying so hard to not fall in love with Yelena, it's just so romantic whenever they had a moment in the last half of the book. In the first half of the book, we do get subtle hints that there's some romantic interest going on from Valak's side. With Yelena, she's not very open about how she feels about Valak, at least for the first half of the novel, and that totally makes sense because Valak is supposed to be a mentor, and you know, like, you don't just automatically have feelings for someone. You need to like get to know them. So I like that the romance in this novel is actually realistic, rather than, you know, like certain couples out there in fiction where they just instantaneously love each other and there's not much reason for it apart from, oh, he's got really good looks, that's why I like him, and it's always annoyed me. But with this one, the romance, even though it was subtle, and that's what I don't like it when it gets too corny with the romance. It feels so weird. Like, I'm reading it for the fantasy and the plot. I'm not reading it for romance, even though it does have romantic elements to it. But that's mainly for the last half of the book, because that's when Yelena and Valak, they get closer. So at the beginning, Valak is just a mentor to Yelena, but a very good mentor to Yelena. And then Valak, he actually offered Yelena, well, not offered, he made Yelena actually stay in his what was it called? Stay in his suite. So that's actually really personal. You're not supposed to do that with your mentees or anyone you're teaching, or have a professional having a professional platonic relationship with someone. You're not supposed to do that because that's really personal. But the fact that he allowed Yelena to stay with him, wow, that says something, you know. So I was just like thinking, wow, this guy really likes her, even though he's so, like, he's actually supposed to be very cold, and because he's an assassin, he's not supposed to like get romantically interested in anyone, and so he was trying his best to like contain himself, you know. And it was so hard for Valak and for Yelena, because her position is as a criminal. She's not supposed to fall in love with her own mentor or anyone really. But the romance did gradually blossom rather than instantaneously. And then in the last half of the book, oh my god, this has to be the most romantic quote, or one of the most romantic quotes. I'll put a picture here of the romantic quote of Valak's confession to Yelena. It's just so damn romantic, and I was just like, oh my god, that was so romantic and metaphorical, because he's using the metaphor of poisons. Like, he said something like, you have poisoned me and with this love, like, I've tried to, like, I mean, I'm just paraphrasing it, but like, Yelena, you have poisoned me. For months I've been trying to not fall in love with you, but I do. Something like that. I'll put the quote here. I can't be bothered to find it in the book. Anyway, so that was just, and then Yelena, like, they finally kiss after that confession. I just thought that was so brilliantly done. So Snyder, like, you're an incredibly well-written, you're an incredible writer who writes well-written fiction. I mean, I've only read one book from Snyder, so I hope that the sequel and the other books in this series live up to this. So in terms of plot and character, like, I guess 4.5 out of 5, and for the pacing I'd say it's like a 3.5 to 4 out of 5, but only because the first half of the novel it was just like Yelena getting familiar with the castle and the poisons, studying the poisons, and it kind of slowed things down, but it got really good in the last half. Like, damn, Yelena managed to, like, use her magic in the climax with Valak's help and Arian Django's help, of, like, helping her escape execution from Brazil and Mokkan, who were the main villains in this novel. So I just I hope we see more romance between Yelena and Valak, because it's just amazing. I don't even like romance much as a genre, but once I ship something I want to see more of it. That's the thing with me. Oh man, it was so romantic, the last half. So that's and it's so action packed as well, like, yeah. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this novel. So I'm not going to read Fire Study. Fire Study is the sequel to this. I'm going to read it, like, later on. I just want to, like, read other books read books from other authors, and then I'll read Fire Study and do a book review on Fire Study. At the moment I'm reading Sumner the Novice by Taran Mataru, so I will do a book review once I finish with that book. Yeah, and yeah, that's all I have to say. So if you're interested, the reason why I bought this particular book series mainly because there was a sale going on the site called The Works, but you know, I don't regret it at all. I think it's just brilliant. So yeah, that's all I have to say, so stay tuned for more.